It's so good to be back out in the house of the Lord. We pray that your week's been going pretty good. I wish these allergies would move on out. So we'll do the best we can. We thank God for you. We want you to remember Nell tonight. Remember her in your prayers.
Joetta and them could not come.
Remember our niece, she's in pretty bad shape. Remember, of course, remember a pastor and his family. Someone else got a prayer request.
I still want to be remembered. I go for that test Friday, or see the doctor Friday.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, keep her in your prayers, just getting close. Someone else.
I'd like to remember my family. I lost my aunt today, the last aunt I had on my dad's side.
Well,
And that, don't know what the arrangements are yet, I don't know.
Does she live here? Does she live here?
No.
remember that request, someone else.
She did live up Octavia. She lived in North Carolina.
Brother, remember my grandma, she's 97 and she's recovering from a broken hip.
Wow.
God's blessed her real good. She broke one at 90 and I mean, she was right back up after the surgery and doing great. This one's been a little harder, but God is good and he'll take care of it.
Yeah.
And remember the lost in our family.
Okay. That's very, very important to remember the lost people. I'm telling you, we know
My aunt was 9.
without a doubt that time is running out for them. And it's getting tough to testify and witness to them. I don't know why. It just seems like they don't want to hear it. But I'm not giving up.
No.
You gotta mention the Lord to them every now and then and tell them that there's a better place to live. I know we have it rough down here. Sometimes unexpected things happen. We got to put up with this life until it's over, until the God says come home. And I'm looking forward to see the man that saved my soul. I begged him to save my soul. I tried to deal with him. I told him I'd do anything he wanted me to do if he would just save my soul. And that's when I felt peace come over me. And I found out from day one, almost from day one, that I was a failure. That I couldn't hold up to my part of the bargain because sin was already in me. But he has never let me down. He has always been there. He don't make mistakes. He's always there, and he always will be. We thank God for each and every one of you. It's try our best to get our minds clear. I was all gobbled up in my mind Sunday. Still not the best in the world, but God will take care of it. We have to go on. So you got a request?
Well, like I say, continue to remember me. As everybody knows, I've had shocking and shocking and shocking. And then I had the pacemaker. Then I had to have this double ablation, and it still won't stay in, so they wanted to do another shocking last Monday. And finally I just said no. And Thursday morning, I got up and it had gone back in. For 4 days, I had a regular, normal heartbeat.
Amen.
Wanting 300 beats a minute, and that is, oh, you don't have to, that's Phil. But then whenever I got up Monday morning, and I sat down and started to take my blood pressure, it hit me again, and I know it's back out, hit hard. But I said, I know the Lord can put it back anytime he wants to. And I'm just trusting him and going on and forgetting about it.
All right, that sounds like a good attitude, don't it? Someone else?
Maybe we could remember my sister Phyllis. She had a double hernia repair and something else on her esophagus today. She's in pretty bad shape, but the surgery went well. She's just got to have some recovery time.
Yeah.
Always remember me. I had another procedure at the hospital today, and I'm just praying that I have good success with that procedure. Yeah. Keep me in your prayers always if you can.
Okay. That reminds me of sister-in-law. Remember her, she went for a biopsy day before yesterday.
Yeah.
and I don't think she's heard the results yet, so it's prayed that that'll be good results. So we can kind of remember that along the way if you can, that, most of always pray that they get their life straightened up and get in good standing with God. Someone else?
I like for you to remember my son and his family in prayer, and also my great nephew was saved, baptized last week of Octavian. Remember him in prayer that he let the Lord lead and guide him in a way that he would be pleased with. And one of the girls I used to work with at Food City, she was in the other day, and her husband had fell and broke his hip, and he's in Prestonburg facility for therapy and everything. So remember him, he's in his 80-some years old. So she asked that I would remember him in prayer, so I asked the church to pray for him too.
Okay. Remember that request.
If y'all would also remember my daughter Emily, she's 20 going for colonoscopy tomorrow. She's been having just some issues and they're finally gonna do one. It's supposed to be around noon, she's gotta check in.
Okay. Remember that request.
Brother Leonard, I'd like the church to pray for a few families tonight. Remember the family of Camilla Hopkins. She was a 1-year-old patient of ours at work that passed away. She had a lot of heart complications, and I think this was a little bit unexpected, so remember the family. Remember the Hall family tonight. Their little 1-month-old baby passed away from a rare genetic disorder. And remember the family of that little 4th grader Lucy. She collapsed at school and died. So there's a lot of children deaths this week. It's kind of burdened me down a little bit.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine. Just can't imagine.
It has to be pretty rough.
Remember Gary Stewart, because he'll be having some minor surgery on Friday.
Yeah.
Okay. Someone else?
Remember our conference week this weekend, and that all goes well.
Man,
Remember our conference coming
Yes.
up on Saturday, that all goes well,
Yeah.
and we have good attendance.
yeah, I got to ask around what the preachers conference, and I didn't think it was. I thought it was the next time, but it is. Come find out it's Friday, and I sure would have missed. Cameron messaged me and asked me. I said, no, not this time.
I thought it was
And then
whenever you sent me
I
that
got to
message.
thinking, and I said, maybe it is, and I messaged Sue, and she didn't know, and Nell called Dale, and he didn't know. I think she finally found out from somebody.
I started messaging, I did Anna Lou, she didn't know. Then I did Dale, he didn't know. I said, well, Roger Blackburn will know.
Yeah.
So I sent Barb a message, and she sent back and told me it was here.
That's the side the preacher can't keep up with it.
So then I went on the Pike County Conference thing, and there it was. So
You folks have made us lazy. From day one, when I come over here, you all said, now preacher's conference Friday, don't forget. I'd have got in trouble this time, cause I missed a lot. All righty, someone else. Unspoken request. Jason, will you come up and lead us in prayer? Or can you? Get him out of that booth.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you again today.
You gonna sing for Shane?
Yeah.
I seen you tune the guitar or working on it or something.
I got one I'll try since ain't just a few of us. I know everybody loves it. If I mess it up, it'll be a big deal. And I've had a daughter to my name. I've had friends that's walked away. And I've even lost myself a time or two. And there were bridges crossed and burned. Through all the wreckage I have learned, there's one thing that I could never lose. If I got Jesus, I've got all that I could ever need. Take this world away from me, and I'll be okay. If I got Jesus, and there's a hope that's living deep inside, a joy that I could never hide, a safe place to fall. If I got Jesus, I've got it all. I've seen weakness turn to strength. I've seen failures met with grace. And it's not what I've done, it's Christ in me. A miracle I can't explain. Oh, He's given me His name, and I'm the richest man that I could ever be. If I got Jesus, I've got all that I could ever need. Take this world away from me, and I'll be okay. If I got Jesus, and there's a hope that's living deep inside, a joy that I could never hide, a safe place to fall. If I got Jesus, I've got it all. Someday that trumpet's gonna sound, and the King of Heaven will ride upon the clouds coming down. And I lift my knees, oh Lord, and sings my soul. I'm going home. But if I got Jesus, and there's a hope that's living deep inside, a joy that I could never hide, a safe place to fall. If I got Jesus, and there's a hope that's living deep inside, a joy that I could never hide, a safe place to fall. If I got Jesus, I've got it all. an old friend I haven't seen some time. He'll stop by and ask me how you been, what's on your mind. He'll ask me, am I still drinking, still painting the old town red? I tell him I'm serving Jesus now, and the old man is dead. And this man you see before you sure looks a lot the same, and I still wear my same old clothes, still got my same old name. Ah, but you're looking on the outside, if you could see what's inside instead, you would see a brand new man, 'cause the old man is dead. Used to live such a wicked life, I had no hope inside, blinded by the darkness. I was searching for some light, and then one night, in a little church, after hearing what the preacher said, I gave my life to Jesus, and the old man was dead. And this man for you sure looks a lot the same, and I still wear my same old clothes, still got my same old name. Ah, but you're looking on the outside, you can see what's inside instead. You would see a brand new man, 'cause the old man is dead.
Someone else got a song. Do you sing?
On occasion.
Yeah.
I don't claim to be great at it though.
Well, I didn't ask you that. Do you want to sing?
Joyful noise.
Yeah, go ahead. We love to.
I mean, I don't really have a song right now on my
Okay.
heart, so, but thank you.
All right, I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I didn't want to pass you up either. Yeah. But maybe next time, okay? And, we love everybody at Bedford Church here, we really do. We want people to feel at home. If I put you on the spot, I'm sorry. I wanted to come back there and ask you what sing was singing, and I asked you to sing that song, and I hated to be doing that way. It's good to see you, Brother Cameron.
Good to see you.
How you doing?
Great, you?
I'm doing good, brother. But, anybody else got anything to say? All right, I'll pray for a brother to come.
Brother. Wonderful singing this evening. And, so it's time. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Work out that part. Great singing tonight. Happy to be in the house of the Lord. as always. Sometimes I think after reading this chapter, one of the things I've tried my best to do is to apply the things that I learned from it in my daily life. I know one of them was when you're confronted with challenges, to start praying. And sometimes it might seem like a waste of time because you have things going on, right? You have to figure things out. But sometimes when you take a step back and pray, it's like calm and ease comes to it. And sometimes we get ahead of ourselves. We put ourselves in the problem instead of putting ourselves outside the problem and putting God and let Him help guide us to solve it. Right? And I think the other one else that I also want to point out to is sometimes because we're so busy, because we're so occupied with so many different things of this world, we forget to also appreciate God's blessings in our daily lives. And then we start to think of what we're lacking, and we forget to see what we already have, what's been fulfilled. And I think that is something that's very important. That's really helped me in my daily walk. And I would suggest anyone, whoever is watching or is here, wherever it is, I think those two very powerful things is prayer and gratitude. And it can go such a long way. So we're still in the first book of Samuel. And last week we went over chapter 15. And we talked about how the Lord sends Samuel to tell Saul to go and destroy the Amalekites. And in doing so, he tells him he wants them completely destroyed, right? I believe to utterly destroy them. Is what the Lord tells Saul. And in doing so, Saul goes to the Amalekites, or to Amalek, and destroys them. However, he spares the cattle and he spares their king, right? With the pretext of like, well, it's of value. He only kept the good things from the enemy. That's why the Lord telling him to utterly destroy everyone. Obviously, then when he comes back and Samuel sees all the cattle and sees the king of the Amalekites named Agag, he goes and says, hey, what is this? I thought the Lord told you to utterly destroy the Amalekites. And he says, well, the people wanted the cattle and that's what they wanted. I couldn't tell them no. And we kind of touched a topic about, when the Lord orders you to do something, you must follow. Right? And we can make a resemblance as that when the Lord tells us to get sin out of our life, it's not that we just take out some of it and keep some of the things we like. Right? It's all of it. And we also don't try to make excuses as, well, my friend offered me a drink, or my friends insisted, and it looked really good, or it was Friday night, or whatever. So everybody else is doing it, I might as well do it too, right? So that's what we have here. And then obviously at the very end of the chapter, we find that Saul and Samuel, they argue. Obviously, Saul kind of begs Samuel to forgive him, and although this is not a very honest begging for forgiveness, Saul still does it, although Samuel knows that the Lord has departed from Saul. And that chapter ends in Saul crying or weeping over Saul's soul, knowing that, Saul was no longer with the Lord. And even it ends with it saying that on the last verse in chapter 15, and Samuel came to no more to see Saul until that day of his death. Nevertheless, Samuel mourned for Saul, and the Lord repented that he had made Saul king over Israel. So Saul has become a great disappointment for the Lord, to the point where he's repenting or regretting making him king over Israel. So now, I think the part that some people are excited about is David, right? So this is what this chapter is about. We finally get to introduce David into, there we go. David into the story, right? So in chapter 16 it reads, and the Lord said unto Samuel, how long wilt thou mourn for Saul, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? Fill thine horn with oil, and go. I will send thee to see Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have provided me a king among his sons. Right? So now the Lord's telling Samuel, I know where you're going to find this next king. Go to Bethlehem. In Jesse's line, you're going to find him. And if we look, right, to obviously to see who Jesse is, or his line, his name means gift. I forgot to put that up there, but his name represents gift, and he is an ancestor of Christ himself. Furthermore, in the book of Ruth, in chapter 4, verse 17 and 22, I'll read it quickly for you guys. It says, and the women, her neighbors, gave it a name, saying, there is a son born to Naomi, and they call his name Obed. he is the father of Jesse, the father of David.
Yeah.
And then furthermore, in verse 22, it says, and Obed begat Jesse, and Jesse begat David. So this is a very important line. These are not just your regular people. So it's a very special person. And then another thing to add on this verse is that he's filling his horn with oil, right? So we've kind of mentioned when Saul got anointed, it is a literal cow horn, maybe a bull horn, right? Think like a long horn, right? Big one. And it's filled to the brim with. It's gonna be a lot. It's not like a little. It's not one of these things, right? It's enough to give you a bath, enough to cover your entire body in it. In verse 2, and Samuel said, how can I go? If Saul hear it, he will kill me. And the Lord said, take a heifer with thee, and say, I am come to sacrifice to the Lord. And in verse 3 it reads, and call Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show thee what thou shalt do. And thou shalt anoint unto him whom I name unto thee. Right? And that's what the Lord's giving him instructions, also to avoid conflict as well with Saul, right? To kind of make it appear as if, you're coming here for a sacrifice, and that's what this is going to be. And it's also coming as a peace offering, so they're going to share a meal through all of this. In chapter 16. And Samuel did which the Lord spake, and came to Bethlehem, and the elders of the town trembled at his coming, and said, comest thou peaceably? So now, when he arrives to Bethlehem, the elders are a little bit scared, right? Because in chapter 15, because of Saul's refusal to kill Agag, king of the Amalekites, Samuel had to put it upon his own hands, and he said, bring me Agag, and he cut his head off, right? Chopped it, actually, he had to cut him into pieces. Although Agag thought that he was okay, they're going to let him go, in reality, Samuel grabbed the sword and just chopped him up, butchered him up like he would an animal, right? And I think the elders were sort of like, they probably heard the story of what happened, and they were like, oh goodness, he's coming for us now, like, Holman Samuel's going to come cut us up into pieces too. And that's why they're a little bit scared, like, is there a problem?
But what's funny, Rico, is the previous verses, Samuel was afraid. Because he was afraid of Saul.
Yeah.
Then the people were afraid of Samuel. But Samuel had the Lord on his side.
Exactly. That's a good point. It's also like the kind of fear of righteousness over like a righteous anger, or the fear out of a worldly anger. I think there's a difference there. Because we see out of like Saul try to kill his own son, and how it was like unrighteous and his own people turned against him. Whereas Samuel, people see the right in what he's doing, and people are not stopping him, right? There's like that difference, I think. But that's a good point. And then in verse 5, it reads, and he said, peaceably I am come to sacrifice unto the Lord. Sanctify yourselves, and come with me to the sacrifice. And he sanctified Jesse and his sons, and called them to the sacrifice, right? So they start the sacrificial process, calls them to come over with the elders. It's probably at the temple. And obviously I put a picture of Bethlehem. I'm assuming that's like a square, perhaps a monument in Bethlehem. It's just outside Jerusalem. It lays within the borders of the West Bank, so it's like Palestinian occupied territory. I did put a map here. I thought that'd be kind of interesting. So Jerusalem, it's right here, and Bethlehem sits just south of Bethlehem. So it's pretty close. I mean, it's very short distance. It's probably not much more than 20 miles, 20, 30 miles. So it's right there. And that's a modern map of Israel, by the way. Verse 6. And it came to pass, when they were come, that he looked on Eliab, and said, surely the Lord's anointed is before him. But the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance, or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not a man seeth, for a man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart. So the first person he lays eyes on is Eliab, and he says, oh, Samuel instantly thinks as a human being, oh, this must be him, right? He's tall, he's got broad shoulders, right? He looks like he can carry a sheep or cut a lamb with one swipe of the sword, and he's probably the one, right? And the Lord's like, no, that's not him. Verse 8. Then Jesse called Adinabad, and made him pass before Samuel, and he said, neither hath the Lord chosen this. Then Jesse said, Shammah to pass by, and he said, neither hath the Lord chosen this. And finally, in verse 10, again Jesse made 7 of his sons pass before Samuel. And Samuel said unto Jesse, the Lord hath not chosen these. And more than likely, these were his best sons, the ones he was the most proud of, the strongest ones, the best ones. And usually, you know, I didn't have 7 siblings, but they always, usually it's like the oldest ones, usually the healthiest, strongest, and the more kids you have, usually the more complications, the weaker, the smaller they get. That's what I've always heard. Even with dogs and cattle, it's like that normally. So we can tell that Jesse's not so much, you know, he's kind of showing us the main sons that he wants, right? He brought him to the temple, to the sacrificial, to the whole ceremony. But then there's one more, right? There's one more out there. But what we can take out from these verses is that the Lord doesn't care about what you put value in this world. And he doesn't care about what's on the outside. He cares what's within you.
Yeah.
And the things that he puts value in.
It's all a big prelude to Christ.
Yes.
How he looks at us, not outward but inward.
Yes.
You can put the fake on all you want, but he knows what's going on inside.
Absolutely.
7 sons passed by. You see the number 7?
That's
pop
true.
up
That's a
again.
good point. Yeah.
And then, but there's still one. And this one, oh my goodness, is leading the sheep, is tending to the sheep. And that's what Christ is doing for us right
Amen.
now. He's tending to these sheep. Oh my goodness.
Amen.
Good stuff.
Awesome. And then in verse 11, and Samuel said unto Jesse, are here all thy children? And he said, there remaineth yet the youngest, and behold, he keepeth the sheep. And Samuel said unto Jesse, send and fetch him, for we will not sit down until he come hither. So it's very powerful to see how all his other sons are here eating from the sacrificial animal, and they're sitting there, but then David is out there with the sheep, tending to them, right? And there was from my studies, I've always said it was like there's several books of Psalms and the resemblance of sheep and caring for the soul and the soul of others, right? And how connected with God he is and God's creation. So we know that David is not only the youngest one, he's the smallest one, perhaps the less preferred of the sons, so he's probably the most humble as well, out of all of them.
He's the least
Yes,
of all.
the least of all. And it gives me goosebumps.
I believe I could have a spell right now.
No, it's all right. That's what it's about. In verse 12, and he sent and brought him. Now he was ruddy and withal of a beautiful countenance and goodly to look. And the Lord said, arise, anoint him, for this is he. Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brethren. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward. So Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. Right? So we know that he wasn't the best looking. He was so rough around the edges. And we know that he was somebody that had, but the one thing that they do notice is about his eyes were bright. Right? He had a bright sight, representing intelligence and wisdom. And obviously there, they pour the horn, they pour oil, they cover his entire body with oil. And I imagine that little kid, probably 10 years old, right? All of a sudden he's tending to sheep, and this old Samuel with long beard just dousing him with oil, and completely unexpected. But I'm sure everybody was in shock. I can imagine his oldest brother, like,
The reaction of the brothers.
yeah, I can imagine his brothers, what their reaction was, and probably how they felt. They probably felt like, oh, well, that's not right. But that's how it goes. Verse 14. But the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. In verse 15, and Saul's servant said unto him, behold, now an evil spirit from God troubled thee. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that the Lord has sent an evil spirit. That's not what this means. It means that now where Saul's no longer, his heart is no longer with the Lord, now evil spirits can come in and torment him, right? And that takes me to the book of Romans in chapter 8, verse 9 and 10. You guys want to flip over there? Just to touch on this subject briefly. Because we're seeing how how a man has essentially chose to make his own rules after himself for the things that he cares about, the things that he wants. And now we see the consequences. I can eventually get there. I promise. There we go. Almost there. Boom. Alright. Romans chapter 8, verse 9. But ye are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit. If so be that the Spirit of God dwell in you. Now if any man hath not the Spirit of Christ, he is none of his. And if Christ be in you, the body is dead because of sin, but the Spirit is life because of righteousness. Right? And just like we saw in the previous verses about how it's not our outward appearance, but our inward appearance, we see the same thing here. It's about how Saul inwardly no longer had God in his heart. Right? And then when you have that open room, right, you open that door and kick God out, who's going to come in and replace him? Evil. And that's what we're seeing here.
And he was probably carrying all that sorrow that he felt because of what he had to do to get rid of Saul. And he couldn't let that go, even though it was of the Lord.
Yes.
He was holding it in.
Absolutely.
And that's when the evil spirits come in, when you hold those grudges.
Exactly.
You get different thoughts.
Yes.
Actions take place from that.
Yeah, I always think of the analogy of your house, like who do you let in your house? Right? And like what room do you keep for who? And I think that's a good representation of this. You know, if you make a room for God, and every room in your house is for God, then can the devil enter in? No. But then if all of a sudden you let the world enter into your house, and your living room is the world, and your bedroom is the world, and yeah, then God can't come in. There's no room for him. Verse 16. Let our Lord now command thy servants, which are before thee, to seek out a man who is cunning player of a harp. And it shall come to pass, when the evil spirit from God is upon thee, that he shall play with his hand, and thou shalt be well. And Saul said unto his servants, provide me now a man that can play well, and bring him to. So I know his servants suggest to Saul, hey, maybe you need to get a worship leader, a good singer, you need to go to Casting Crowns concert, right? And here's some music that's going to lift your spirits, right? And they know this because earlier in the book, when he heard that band, that worship band, coming down from the hill, that's when the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. So they're thinking, well, maybe that helped him then, and we know that music opens up us to the Spirit. They're thinking, well, if we bring a cunning player, a skilled player of the harp, it might help with that evil spirit. Might help take it away.
That's like singing before the preacher comes to preach. He can set the scene, can't he?
Exactly.
The spirit can start going from breast to breast
Exactly.
during the singing.
Absolutely.
Of course, they didn't have Ativan back then to give it to him. He had to rely on music.
Yeah. A lot more different, but yeah, so, worship music is a powerful tool to wake up the spirit amongst the congregation. Verse 18. Then answered one of his servants and said, behold, I have seen a son of Jesse in the Bethlehemite, that is cunning in playing, and a mighty valiant man, and a man of war, and prudent in matters, and a comely person, and the Lord is with him. And that right there, with the word comely, it means agreeable, likable, gets along well. That's what David is he's not so much that he's not arrogant, but he gets along with people. He's likable. And he's also a skillful player of the harp. What a coincidence, right? What are the odds? And the servants inform him of this, and that's what we come to see. And what a coincidence that David just gets anointed, and now he's getting ready to serve Saul. Right?
This reminds me of the Morning Stars bringing the flannel board and putting this very picture up there for us little kids and teaching us, little David, play on your harp.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I swear, I just look for random pictures. Oh, that looks good. I had no idea.
That
Does
was
anybody else remember?
Yeah, That's in the old days.
Gotcha.
Well, now I know that.
No, I mean,
We didn't have it.
it's okay. It's like I put the Wicked Witch last week for put up for witchcraft, and I put the Wicked Witch. And I didn't realize it was the Wizard of Oz.
Of course.
But I was like, I had no idea until I got it's like I think that's what it is.
But you don't hear those little songs anymore, and it would do your heart good sometime to hear them because they're still good.
Yeah.
We always look forward to seeing the Morning Star.
Yeah.
People come too. We were, back years and years and years ago,
Mhm.
growing up, they would come to our school.
That's awesome. Oh yeah, I think Chris has mentioned that. I felt like Chris talked about
Southwest, yeah. I before waiting for my time too.
Yeah, I remember. And actually, now I remember now. Chris has mentioned that to me before. Yeah, I think that's important. On a side note, I think that's important for kids. I don't see how that's a bad thing.
I don't either.
I just don't understand that. But what am I,
Nowadays they couldn't because somebody been protesting their rights and all that. Kills me.
Yeah, when I was growing up, they would take us to the Catholic church, and I think it was a field. This really the only field trip we had was to the church, and it was kind of fun. We watched a little, Moses kind of movie and
Yes.
learn about. I thought it was fun. I mean, learn about Jesus. It was a good time, and we got to eat sandwiches and snacks. And
But this was in the days before we had Sunday schools in all the churches, and we only got to
Yeah.
go once a month.
Yeah.
It's been 70-some years ago.
yeah, well,
It's been 80-some years.
oh well, I don't go that far.
About close to 80.
I don't go that far. Goodness. Moving to verse 19, and it reads, Wherefore Saul sent messengers unto Jesse, and said, Send me David thy son, which is with the sheep. Right, so then obviously messengers go ahead and ask Jesse for his son. And for Jesse's like, well, my son just got anointed, and now he's in high demand by the king. This is very odd.
And this is all Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a,
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I thought you wanted to say something. No, you're fine. And Jesse took an ass laden with bread and a bottle of wine and a kid, and sent them by David his son unto Saul. So obviously they take a donkey and they load him up with food. I'm assuming that Jesse wouldn't send his son over to the king without anything to offer to him. I'm sure this is either done out of respect of the king, or also perhaps maybe so David had to eat on the way there. More likely to look like, hey, look, my son's not coming empty-handed to you. Look at what we have, and we're offering something to you as well.
This is somewhat similar to Samuel's mother having to carry him away and take him when he was very young, and just set him down over there and say, he's yours, do with him,
yeah.
Yeah.
do with
Yeah.
him.
That's true. That's true. That's a good point. In verse 21, and David came to Saul and stood before him, and he loved him greatly. He became his armor bearer. Right? So, David, at the first sight, he seemed to like this kid, seemed like a good kid and a good boy. I'm sure he was good at tending sheep, and saw him how skillful and attentive he was. I'm sure tending to sheep is not easy, so they run around and get away, and I'm sure, that takes a lot of skill and strength and patience, and probably saw those qualities in it, and, makes him armor bearer. Probably this person had to follow him around up and down, probably this person of most trust. We know in a previous chapter that it was Jonathan's son's armor bearer that helped him fight the Philistines. So we know the armor bearer is a very important person. It almost looks like an advisor or an apprentice to the person that they're beneath. In verse 22, and Saul sent Jesse, saying, Let David pray thee, and stand before me, for he hath found favor in my sight. And in verse 23, and it came to pass, when the evil spirit from God was upon Saul, that David took a harp, and played it with his hand. So Saul was refreshed, and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him. So we see how this chapter ends, right? We see how this evil spirit comes upon Saul, and is a godly person, or a person anointed by the Lord, music or blessing someone else.
Yeah.
Right, and it's very important that sometimes we get stuck in our own funk, and we forget that we can go to others for strength.
You got to sometimes.
You have to sometimes. And sometimes it's a hard thing. It's a little bit embarrassing. But that's happening to me, like, before teaching or when I'm just at church. If I had a rough week, I had a rough day, and I hear just one song, and they just I completely forget about it.
Yeah.
And it shows how important it is to know who we surround ourselves with as well.
You're somebody like me, Rico, that will listen to something other than Christian music. I can listen to it now, and it's just, I shake my head, but now when I can turn it on to like the Christian station and just drive with it, maybe 10, 15 minutes into the drive, everything has changed, and I'm focused on God again, and it realigns me, so I can identify with this chapter. It's really good.
Yeah, and I just way before I got saved, it was my first year of college, and I had a person lived across the hall from me, and he would always had Christian music playing in his room constantly.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was a super nice guy, and you could tell instantly when you walked into his room.
Something was off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you would call me crazy because I mean, at that point, I've never really been around Christian people a whole lot. So to me, but it was odd. Like you would walk in there and you're like, oh wow, like
this is different.
Yeah, it is different, right? And it's got a power. Like it's a power that you can't measure, that you can't see, you can't smell, you can't touch. It's just beyond our understanding. And that closes off our chapter, right? In summary, we see how the Lord works in His ways, right? Not only He sends Samuel to anoint this little boy that's tending to the sheep, right? Not a good-looking kid, not the strongest kid, but the one that has that heart that God is searching. How He searched within us, right? And then on top of that is then the king, Saul, is tormented by an evil spirit. And it's his servants that find that same kid that his dad didn't think worthy enough to show to the priest. And all of a sudden they meet each other. When Samuel was worried, Saul's going to get mad. And then it turns out that he didn't get mad. He's actually now happy that the evil spirit is away from him. And we see how the blessings of others can touch other people's hearts and get evil away from them. So that's all I got for today, guys.
Does Saul actually realize that David has been anointed, that would be filling in his shoes later?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet.
This is a good example of what Saul, I speak for myself, once you get a little bit left or right and off the path, and you can get as miserable and as backslid as you want to be. Honestly, you can do. I've done it. You can get as far away from God as you want to be, until you eventually figure out what's important and realign yourself. You can stay over there as long as you want to. He'll let you, but eventually you have to say no more. I know where my help comes from, and I have to go back. It's so easy to do that, especially in this day and time. I found myself wandering at times in this Christian walk, and I know when I go to church and I say I ain't getting nothing out of church, it's generally me. I'm not where I need to be. When I can come in not dragging chains, I'll have a good service. If I can leave the chains out in the parking lot, but if I bring them in and sit with them, then I'll just sit here. Very good reputation. Good job.
Church ain't no place to bring your troubles.
Yes.
If you bring them in the church house, well, you're not gonna have church.
No.
Not for you. You're talking about that singing. The more that we can have our ears to hear good stuff.
Yeah.
And our mind to be on good stuff.
Yes.
You
tend to stay there.
God one time got up and sang, and he got on a George Jones tune, and he tried it 3 times, and he could not sing that song. He wanted to get in that other tune, and he dropped his microphone down, and he said, "It's my fault. I listened to George Jones all the way to church." So I'm not saying it's a sin to listen to other music.
No.
But I believe we're better off to listen to Christian music.
Yeah, I think so too.
I really do. If we really want to move closer to God, anything, it's like reading the Bible. When you get to read more,
Yeah.
Do you feel better
Yeah,
Yes,
about yourself?
causes roots to get deeper.
absolutely.
You know, you get a little, like you said, you get a little deeper root, and I've seen times I can't wait to get to church. But I've also seen times that I dread it,
Yeah, care less if you're going on.
and that's when you're in bad shape.
Yeah.
You dread it. Sometimes you'll come on to church,
Mhm.
and you'll get a blessing that you really didn't deserve.
Those are the best services.
And then that gives you the courage to move on. And you really won't wanna listen to nothing but Christian music. You
Yeah.
won't add to it.
Yes,
But I believe we're better off to listen to Christian stuff, you know, if we want. I mean, but it's up to you, I mean.
yeah, absolutely. And I think it also depends on what kind of worldly music you're listening to as well. Like, I think if it's like, I don't know, some of the older music was more appropriate and
Yeah.
less worldly, and now,
I think that's Satan's tactic though nowadays, especially aimed towards younger people.
Yeah.
Some of this music. I mean, I know they had music even when we were growing up that probably wasn't something everybody ought to listen to, but now
oh yeah.
It's as bad as it
every
gets.
song, I mean,
I mean,
you can't listen to it.
Yeah.
in just, you know, the past 10 years, I'm just
Yeah.
like,
It's as bad as it
It's went
gets.
from, you know, you couldn't even say a cuss word in a song to now there ain't even hardly not a cuss word in a song. And I mean, that's just one example. Satan was in charge of the music in heaven, and I believe that is one of his tactics to get to people. And, you know, people talk about subliminal messages, and I don't know if it goes that deep or not, but I do think Satan uses that as a tool to get, especially the young people, kids
Absolutely.
and teenagers and young adults. So you do have to kind of protect your mind and guard your mind, because if you allow that in, you say, well, that song wasn't too bad. Or,
Easy to
or
keep
that,
listening.
that TV show I watched, it wasn't too bad, and all these things can kind of creep in, and then
Yeah.
it's easy to, you know, your mind to wander, and eventually could lead you to sin.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's also, what emotion is it causing within you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, like, there's certain things I just can't watch anymore because it just makes me angry. And I know that if I'm angry or upset, it's like I just don't need to be like that. And I completely get it. And there's things I can watch, they don't faze me. I just, okay, you know. And I think we're all different, but I think it's whatever causes you to stumble and causes others to
Yes.
stumble. That's the important part, I believe.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Good job.